Edward, could you explain what the conspiracy of ineffectiveness is?
Strange statement, isn't it? Actually, if you remember, I told you about going to several leading edge style workshops after this transformational experience that I had in 1979. I went to one in about 1982, and it was spoken of there, so that's where I really heard it coined in that way. And yet when I heard it coined, when I heard the person say it, I said, that's it. That's exactly what it is and where it is that we are on this planet. Because to conspire means to breathe together. That's how deep it is. This whole planet is conspiring together to keep itself ineffectiveness, to keep itself ineffective, excuse me. So it means that anybody who stands up and begins to proclaim the ineffectiveness of it is immediately silenced and put off to the side, and they have special little places where they can put people like that. So it's seemingly a coming together of all the forces of the ineffective world to keep itself that way, and everything that they do demands that we do less than all that we can do. So the conspiracy of ineffectiveness is being less than we can actually be.
What are some examples of our ineffectiveness? What is it that we're ineffective at?
Well, have you noticed any dogs or cats or elephants or alligators having a personality, having a ego, having something other than what they are that they operate from? We're the only, if you call it, species on the planet who actually invent our personality. We invent the way we are. Instead of being, let's say, like the alligator or the elephant or the dog or the cat, we invent our way of being. So it's false. It's a conspiracy. And then once we invent this way of being, this false way of being, then we protect it with our life, limb, and body. We protect it as though it's our... As a matter of fact, if anybody suggests for us to be real, we scream and holler like a little piggy, yelling that we are real. I am what I am. Take me as I am. You can't change, all of these kinds of things. And yet, we're a false identity. We are a image of ourselves. And by virtue of that, we live in the conspiracy of ineffectiveness. We keep ourselves ineffective.
So why are you calling it a conspiracy, and who is it that's conspiring to why do you call it a conspiracy?
Well, as I said earlier, to conspire means to breathe together. It is so deeply ingrained in us that we are actually breathing it together. Do you see what I'm saying? We don't get together like in a football game. I don't know whether you've ever played football, but in a football game, the team huddles up in a little huddle, and they all say, okay, you go down and to the right, and you go down to the left, and this guy's going to run over here, and they make this plan, and then they come up to the ball, and they snap it, and then all of them go do their thing. Well, in our life, we don't huddle together and say, okay, let's everybody do less than we can actually do. Let's pretend that we're being real. We don't do that. It's conspired. It's breathed. It's so deep that it's an unspoken conspiracy that we will remain in the illusion, that we will believe our way through life.
What is it that we are doing that is ineffective? What is our ineffectiveness?
Well, when you start off, we're not being ourselves. We're not being the real live entity that was born. We're being the entity that we were forced to be after our birth. So isn't that in itself ineffective?
How would we be if we were not? How would we be now if we were as we were at our birth? We didn't know anything at our birth.
That's no way of knowing that, because there hasn't been anybody in thousands of years who simply was born and grew and wasn't forced into a conspiracy of ineffectiveness. It was not forced into being a false entity. I wonder if you see the
What
false
are we
end.
doing that's making us false?
What are we doing that's making us false?
Mm-hmm.
We're being our personality rather than ourself.
What's wrong with being a personality?
Personality is something that you invent for yourself to be, rather than being the self that you are.
Well, we usually hear that we're born with a certain personality.
Well, that's malarkey. We're born as perfect individuals with no personality and no hates. We're not born hating black people if we're white, and we're not born hating white people if we're black, and we're not born hating Jewish people if we're Hitler. All of that is learned.
So you say the ineffectiveness is actually what we've learned.
What we've learned, yes.
What should we be learning?
That's unknown. We don't know.
Well, it might be worse than what we're learning now.
Well, I don't know. Can you think of anything worse than what we are now? Look at the suffering and the misery. Look at the people on the planet not being themselves. Look at all the pain and the suffering and the misery and the wars and the people killing themselves and the drinking and the alcohol and the drugs and all of the things on this planet. Do you think? I suppose things could be worse than that, but I don't think so. I mean, if we let nature run its course. If
nature run its course, we would still be like cavemen, I suppose. And I mean, a lot of people are. They're still having children one after another. Like in Pakistan, they're just the females are just breeding machines. They have one child after another. A lot of those Muslim countries, that's all they do is breed.
That's how they're going
and then 12 at 13 years old, they breed. And they cover her head and they breed.
Well, that's how they're going to overcome. They figure that's how we overcame the Indians when we came here. We outbred the Indians probably 5 to 1. So they're doing that to us, although we're doing a pretty good job ourselves. However, what you say is true. From a psychological standpoint, we are still as the caveman was.
But what they're doing in this breeding cycle and in order to spread their beliefs across the planet seems rather effective.
It'd probably work. If there's going to be the end of this world, if the rat race, if you will, is going to come to a head, probably that will be the group that brings it. Muslim fact.
Okay, so that's what we're doing. From our belief, we're being effective. Would you say that?
No, from our belief, we're being ineffective.
But if they believe that every other religion, people that belong to every other religion, are infidels, aren't they being effective in breeding and overcoming?
Yeah, they're being effective in their belief.
That's what I said. They're being effective in their belief.
Yes.
So, and that's all we know to do is be effective. And we think we're being effective because we're all being effective in our belief.
Yes, but
according to our personality, according to what we want. Everybody's got an agenda. Different parties and different agendas, and they make that effective to fit their goal, to fit the end of what they want.
Yeah, if we had a true depiction of where we are today in our world, then it would look something like this in a cartoon. You would see a caveman with long stringly hair and beard and a big club in his hand, and his woman. He's got his woman by the hair, and in front of him then would be placed a computer. That's where we are today.
Conspiracy of ineffectiveness.
Yeah. So we are thousands of years ahead in technology, but as a species, we're still dragging the woman around by the hair with a club in our hand, and we've got a computer there. Do you see the analogy?
Yeah.
That's our psychological movement, is the movement that the caveman was.
Well, how would you get people to see that we're being ineffective?
That's the difficult thing. You know why? It's because they call Bill Gates and who's that?
Warren Buffett.
Warren Buffett and those people. They call them hugely successful, and that's proof that our species
System
is working.
Everybody should aspire
to there.
to that, to be rich and
Yeah, so there you have Buffett and you have Gates, and along with a whole lot of other people. Not to say that they're so horrible for having all that money, but for them, look at the folks in Afghanistan. Look at the people in where is that?
Pakistan and Africa
and
the suffering, the poor and the suffering.
Yes. So if you were on the moon over the last few thousand years and you had binoculars strong enough to see our planet, besides the fact that you wouldn't ever consider coming to this planet because of all the wars and all the killing of each other, you'd also see that. You'd see people living in mansions and just living in superfluous magnificence, and others dropping dead daily from starvation. And what would you say if you were looking down from the moon and seeing all of that? The wars, the starvation, and the one guy with all of the
wealth around him,
and the other people, and the guy with all the wealth, he doesn't even pay attention to that one guy.
But you're going to have people saying, look, Bill Gates and Bill and Melinda and Hillary and Bill and Warren and whatever her name is and Alice, they're helping these people. They're giving their money to them, and they're buying them.
See, that's the biggest.
They're buying computers, and we're shipping food to these poor countries. We're giving them aid.
AIDS is what we're giving them.
Aid, food
I know.
But we do that all over the world.
That's more proof of the ineffectiveness of ourselves, isn't it? Rather than removing the violence from ourselves, rather than distributing the wealth in an even manner, rather than bringing forth peace on earth, we dole out a few dollars to the poor guy. We say, here, look, let me put off your starvation for a few days and give him a few dollars.